it left. Well, you can't get to the boat launch. Hey everyone, fellow fishers, welcome to the last video of 2023. I'm going to give you a little bit of a testimonial on my part. I'm going to tell you right now two things. Number one, I apologize for filming while I'm driving. I don't like doing it. I don't like seeing it. I think it's distracted driving, but I did so today because of the nostalgia of coming down to this location. Second thing I need to tell you is there's not going to be any fish in this video other than the ones at the very beginning and the ones at the very end. So I figure some of you are going to just click over to another video right now. Hopefully you'll come back and watch this one and hear a little bit about why I actually do the litter pickup that I do. I'll turn that into another rod holder also. Thank you to my wife, who's not even here. She has a bottle of water in the car, so I can wash my hands off. And I'll get to a proper place to really do that. So where I'm standing right now, just after talking to a couple gentlemen, is actually probably private property, which means all of that trash that I just found was on somebody else's property, and that's disgusting. Where I am is I'm at the end of Red Hills Road in Horntown, Virginia on the Eastern Shore. Across the way is Captain's Cove. A little nice area where you can have a house right there on the water, put the boat in, so forth and so on. That's Chincoteague Island way off in the distance, not with the GoPro, but I can actually see the bridge leading over to Chincoteague itself. The reason I'm here is because this is one of the two locations that I grew up visiting with my grandfather. My grandfather, after he retired from what he did originally, working in the tomato factory there in New Church, Virginia, actually became a waterman. Well, he was a waterman already, but that's what he actually started to do. He would clam, fish, and crab, and earn a little bit of money here and there so that his retirement, along with that, could take care of him and his wife. I never attended soccer camp during the summer. I never attended baseball camp any of these types of things. I went to camp Grandma and Grandpa. 5 o'clock in the morning in the summer, we'd wake up, hitch up the Boston Whaler to the truck. We'd drive up here, about a 15-minute drive or so with the boat, and we'd get on the water, and we would actually go and fish the crab pots, bringing home usually about a bushel to a bushel and a half of crabs, which my grandfather would then clean, steam, and then my grandmother would spend the mornings picking the crab meat so they could sell it by the pound. They didn't sell bushels of crabs, they sold the crab meat itself. Did pretty well with it also. The afternoons, my grandfather would check the tides, and we would drive down to Matomkin Bay, one of the inland bays a little further down in Virginia, and we would sign clams. One of these days I'm going to get out and show you how signing clams works. We'd come back to his house, we'd put the clams in the actual little outside house that they'd have where it was relatively cool, and then the next day he'd sell them by the roadside. People would just drive by, see the sign that he has clams, and he'd charge, whatever the going price was at that time. Why do I tell you all that? Well, he's the reason why I really got my love for being in and around the water. But that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the cleanup. Why do I like to clean it up? I'm going to tell you that too. Now you have to understand that I'm 55 years old. So all of this was going on in the late 70s, 1977, 78, 79, maybe the early 80s as well, as I would come down for Camp Grandma and Grandpa for a week. Sometimes 2 weeks in a row. I'd go back with my parents, and then I'd come back down here. My grandfather, being the man that he was, loved being by the water. Was always someone who loved being by the water. He had one habit that, looking back on it, was something that I wish he didn't do. But he was my grandfather. And at that time, my grandfather was my hero. We would go out on the boat, again, do some clamming. He'd say lunchtime, and I'd be okay. And we'd go back to the boat, and he'd pull out whatever we were going to have, and he'd hand me a bottle of Pepsi. Glass bottle of Pepsi. This was before plastic bottles. Metal cap, little styrofoam around the actual edges of the bottle. Those of you who are old like me, you know what I'm talking about. We'd eat our lunch. One of the things that he would like to do is he'd actually cut a piece of cantaloupe for himself and taste it and go, that needs salt. Dip it overboard in the water, and then take the next bite and everything like that. Cracked me up every time. I knew it was coming, but again, it cracked me up every time. Just like his joke about Hershey bars. We'd get back to the house, and he'd say, would you like a Hershey bar? I'd say, sure. He's like, male or female? And I was like, male or female? What are you talking about? He goes, with nuts or without? Again, it was a different time. Maybe I shouldn't have told that joke. I don't know. If I get canceled, I get canceled. But you know what? He was my grandfather. Again, a hero. But that one habit, that Pepsi bottle, glass Pepsi bottle, he'd finish his glass Pepsi bottle, and then he would hold it overboard so that it filled up with water. He'd screw the cap on, and he'd toss it overboard. I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, Granddad's going to do it. I'm going to do it too. So I would finish my Pepsi, peel off the little styrofoam coating on it, usually probably just throw that overboard, fill up my bottle with water, put the cap on, and throw it overboard. That's the reason why I pick up all the litter I do. Some people, if you've watched my videos, would know that I'm pretty bitter about litter. That's why I do it. My grandfather was my hero. But looking back on it, that's one little thing that he did that I would say, you know what? I wish we wouldn't have done that. So my penance, I guess you could say, the thing I like to do is I like to pick up the litter that I see by the water just to say, hey, Granddad, I got that one. I got that one. If you stuck with me this long, thank you very much. And until next time, tight lines.